Nintendo Switch 2 versus the PlayStation 5. Just how powerful is the Switch 2? We get into that today on the Nintendo Recap. So answer me this. Is this a big deal? Switch 2's power has people talking and fighting a bit because, of course, we have to be popping out all the comparisons, especially to PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5. But based on various reports of people that have actually had hands-on experience with Switch 2, and I mean, we also do have like the specs of Switch 2. We have access to some side-by-side screenshots of the same game that a PS4 or PS5 will be playing that Switch 2 can play. We have all of that in front of us, okay? We have access to that. So we've been able to see that it's not quite as good as a PS5, but it's actually a lot closer than you think, okay? Digital Foundry says it actually matches the base PS4. The base PS4, a system that came out in, 2013? They had a hands-on experience with Cyberpunk on the Switch 2, and they think it only barely reaches the base PS4 level. It seems as though they've only had hands-on experience with that game, just from what I can tell, so I wouldn't put too much stock into their words right now. I'd wait till the console is out. Maybe they give it a better rating. Maybe they give it a better assessment once they're able to play first-party games from Nintendo. I don't know. I've noticed that Mario Kart World, Metroid Prime 4, the Zelda Switch 2 editions, and Donkey Kong, those games seem to be far more polished because they seem to be obviously a bit more optimized for Switch 2 because they're done by Nintendo for Nintendo hardware. Anyway, I'm curious to see what Digital Foundry says when the console actually comes out. Others have said it's near PS4 Pro quality in terms of performance and power and whatnot. Due to the 12 gigs of RAM, the ray tracing and everything, it seems like that works out very well for the Switch 2. Even just those aspects of Switch 2 would put it way past PS4's 2013 limits. So I don't understand comparing it to PS4 of over 10 years ago and saying it's barely reaching that. The NVIDIA chip, so NVIDIA is boasting that it's 10 times the Switch 1's power and graphics and everything, and the Switch 1 was just a tad behind the PS4. It wasn't leaps and bounds away from the PS4. It was still behind, but it wasn't 10 times behind. You know what I mean? And it's funny because with DLSS upscaling, 4K, 60 FPS, that's actually more on par with what PS5 can do. The Switch 2 has that kind of polish, it looks like, for the Zeldas, the Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong. So I'm curious how third-party companies can optimize their games. I'd love to see that because we saw some pretty awesome ports for the Switch 1, even if the games were a bit muddled or not nearly as good as their PlayStation or Xbox counterparts. But if we can see third-party companies, third-party developers optimizing their games for Switch 2, then we will not see that big of a difference between a Switch 2 and a PS5. We really won't. As the screenshots and side-by-side stuff have shown us, there are some games that are optimized and created for the Switch 2 that are almost just as good as a PS5. Just take a look at that. Like, seriously, I don't see how the Switch 2 is much closer to PS4 base PS4 from over 10 years ago when it looks like this. But handheld mode obviously is going to be taking a bit of a dive in performance and power. It's a bit more like PS4-like in those regards, because it seems to obviously save some battery life since it's not as powerful, and but it's a nice, silky 1080p with a potential of 120 FPS. The PS4 in 2013 could not do that. So, anyway, take that how you will, but I'm curious, what do you think about that? Because with all this said and done, I still find it a bit funny that we're just rigorously comparing Nintendo's consoles to those of Sony and Microsoft. I mean, I get it. It gives us a way to understand performance, power, and potential and whatnot, because we're able to relate it to consoles that are on the market. I don't know. My issue is Nintendo has made software the priority. Games, okay? Versus hardware, all right? That's how it's always been, it seems, okay? Innovation, creativity, and such have always been at the forefront for Nintendo. They've always given that greater focus versus power and performance. No, it is refreshing, okay? I will say it's very refreshing to see Nintendo seems to be playing ball a bit. They are trying to push out a console, finally, that actually competes rather well in terms of power and performance, even if it's not quite there yet, because Nintendo has done so well, like incredibly well, with stuff like the Switch 1 was old hardware. It was old hardware for its time, even when it came out in 2017, and it did remarkably well, incredibly well. It outsold the Wii, and the Wii freaking printed money. Okay, it's funny that we're still comparing as if it's life or death for the consoles if it matches up with the PS whatever. You know what I mean? Anyway, what are your thoughts on all of this? Is Switch 2's comparison to a PS5, PS4 console a big deal to you? Do you see much of a gap between the more powerful consoles and between what we've seen so far with Switch 2? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious what you think. A lot of people this is a big deal, okay? But for some, it's not a big deal. They know Nintendo will deliver on games, even if it's not as powerful. Next up, we have a rather unexpected but big win for Zelda fans. This really is unexpected. Switch 2's upgraded editions of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom might let you repair weapons through the Zelda Notes app. That's something we never thought would be possible in these games. We thought the weapon breaking system was here to stay permanently, forever. And everyone was so back and forth on it, all right? The YouTuber Zeltic spotted this in a Treehouse live stream where Nintendo's mobile app actually has a daily bonus roll, and equipment repairs is actually up there for grabs, okay? No more forever goodbyes to that royal broadsword you love. It is at random though, so no guarantee that you'll land on that repair for that day. It's pretty awesome if you ask me, and it may change up how I play both of the games. Will this change how you hoard weapons? Drop your thoughts, let me know. Is this exciting or is this not that big of a deal? So this is a bit interesting. We have seen screenshots of the Switch 2's actual UI, okay? The user interface that we're going to be dealing with for the next several years. And it looks like it's actually very similar to the original Switch, okay? That is sparking some debate, and it's even sparking some frustrations by lots of Nintendo fans. Is it too familiar, or do you kind of like the subtle changes here and there? It makes it look a little sleeker, it looks like, but what do you think? Do you wish that Nintendo could have switched it up a ton? Game Rant says it's almost identical to Switch 1, but it just has a couple of tweaks here and there, like the rounded game tiles, and the eShop icon is red now, but it is smoother because the 1080p in handheld mode, like the FPS, it seems as though the menu is a bit snappier, just feels smoother because it's a better and more powerful system. There are some new looking little selections at the bottom of the screen of the menu there that could actually hint at possible customization. Okay, so unlike Switch 1's very bare bones setup, from my understanding, a big reason why Switch 1 was so simple like that was because it gave any user, a quick entry point into the system in games. Like, it was just quick, the system would turn on really fast and get into a game like very quickly. IGN had hands-on experience. They praised that the screen was vibrant, the colors were popping, making Zelda, Mario Kart, everything look clean and crisp. But many on X, lots of people out there that are seeing the hands-on footage, seeing all the screenshots. The vibes are a bit split. Some call it soulless, wanting the old Wii and 3DS themes and styles back, you know? They want that charm back. Others love it and think that it's quick, it's clean, it's sleek. I'm optimistic. I could still see themes playing a part, okay? But I'm honestly not hung up on it because I'm actually okay either way. I don't really mind it. But are you hoping for themes? Do you think it's a bit of a soulless look still, or do you mind the current UI of the Switch 2 and Switch 1? Let me know what your thoughts are. Well, that's all I got for you today. That was your Nintendo recap. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.